Welcome back to Cosmic Life Astrology. Today we're talking about March 24th through March 31st. We are officially in eclipse week. So we have a little bit of a roller coaster ahead of us because we have an eclipse this week. But we have some other energies that are going to play into that as well. As I'm taping this, Venus is releasing from her conjunction to Saturn, but also making a sextile to Jupiter. And Venus and Jupiter are in mutual reception of each other, which means that they both understand each other very well and are in a lot of harmony during their sextile. So you know, we have a good opportunity for the next few days to bring good fortune, bring expansion to our love, our money, our what we find aesthetically beautiful. We have a good opportunity and a good window to make some strides in that. And when we get into Wednesday, we'll see Venus make a sextile to Uranus, and that'll be a little different of an energy because they will not be in mutual reception, and Uranus is very unpredictable, and so I'll dive into that as we go day by day, but I wanted to bring that up because we are seeing the Venus sextile Jupiter now, and we're also seeing Jupiter within 4 degrees of Uranus in Taurus. And so their energy is going to become a little more apparent as the month of April goes on. You know, we're finishing up March now, and we're going to see the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction happen at the end of April. But as these two planets are within 4 degrees of each other, you could start to see opportunities for a change of luck, opportunities for expansion, for growth, a sudden, you know, change for the better, because we're talking about Jupiter, who loves to bring expansive opportunities and growth and harmony and higher learning, as well as travel opportunities. So you can start to see little inklings of what that conjunction will bring at the end of April. And we have Mars that just entered Pisces. So we will see slow moving progress. With Mars in Pisces, it's like Mars is walking through mud. Mars is a, you know, spiritual warrior in Pisces, but it can't move as fast as it wants to. And that's okay, because right now we are being told in more ways than one not to move fast. Okay, so let's dive in. On Monday, we have the infamous Libra Lunar Eclipse happening at 5 degrees Libra. And with a lunar eclipse, we're talking about a culmination or an ending. And we're going to look back to when we had the solar eclipse in October, and connect what started in October that can be coming to a culmination point now. So if you did have something begin during the Libra solar eclipse in October, give or take a few weeks prior or after, then you may see that come to a culmination, come to a finalization, or, you know, come to an end of some sort, or the beginning of an end to what you've been working on for the past 6 months. And when we're talking about an eclipse in Libra, there is primarily a relationship focus. We also are seeing the Libra eclipse make a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. And this is going to very heavily drive home the focus of transformation. It will be very apparent what needs to change when an eclipse comes around. And with a trine to Pluto, Pluto is going to basically make you face what needs to change and implement those changes. Pluto is going to require that we dig up our heels and do what we got to do, as hard as it may be, especially if you're talking about relationship changes. You know, there may be a need to change the dynamics of a relationship or bring a relationship to an end that may not be serving you anymore. It may be out of alignment with where you're going in your life. And this isn't primarily romantic. This can be work relationships. It can be family relationships, friendships, you know, relationships of any kind. And if you look at your chart and you see where the Aries and Libra axis is in your chart, you'll have a better idea of what kind of relationships are coming into focus right now. And when we're talking about a trine to Pluto in Aquarius, a lot of the background focus for change will be what's best for the people around you, okay? And this eclipse is, you know, there's no other aspects that it's making. And so, you know, I mentioned this in the video I made particularly for the lunar eclipse, that this is a potent time for rebalancing things that are out of balance. So if you have any relationships that, you know, maybe were neglected, that you need to pay more attention to, or maybe relationships where you paid too much attention to and neglected others, or you may find that you've been spending a lot of time in a relationship that really isn't serving your highest good. This is a time to really face it head on. And with a lunar eclipse, typically you'll see that play out within the first month from the eclipse. And with solar eclipses, you know, it's like a new moon on steroids. So, you know, you can see that play out over the course of 6 months. And I think, you know, there's primarily a focus on closing out whatever it is that we need to let go of, because it will be 10 degrees away from the South Node, which is a very wide conjunction, so to speak. And, you know, eclipses do have a wide orbit, but we're being told between the eclipse being followed by a Mercury retrograde to be mindful of what we're closing out and what we're trying to begin, okay? So we have a lot of energy surrounding an eclipse, and it can be very emotional, lunar eclipses especially. So, you know, be prepared. It's very Uranian. You don't know what to expect. However, eclipses have a way of basically nudging us to where we need to be. If you're not where you need to be, an eclipse will come in and basically kind of nudge you right along to where you should be, okay? And if you're already in alignment with where you should be in life, or what relationships you should be in, then you probably won't see much happening during the eclipse. You may see this affecting people around you more than yourself. And so as the week goes on Tuesday, we're going to see Mercury at 24 degrees of Aries make an opposition to the moon in Libra. And I think this is going to be an important day to pay attention to, because we're seeing Mercury, which rules the mind and our communication, opposing the moon. So we could see that our emotions and our mind are at odds with each other, or what's being communicated may make a difficult impact on our emotions, right? And this could be a precursor to what we see being addressed during the Mercury retrograde, which begins next week. I feel like this opposition is triggered by the eclipse and also is a precursor to the Mercury retrograde. So it's like, I can't help but think of like a ping pong or a pinball machine, right? Where, you know, things are just bouncing back and forth, but they're doing so and connecting in a way for a reason. On Wednesday, we're going to see Venus make a sextile to Uranus, and that will play out for a few days. And with a sextile to Uranus, you know, you have Venus, which is a benefic planet, making a sextile to a unpredictable planet. This could be a sudden shakeup that's beneficial for the Venus energies. All right, so love, money, all things that you consider beautiful. With Uranus and Taurus, I could very well see this playing out where you suddenly decide to plant a different type of flower in your garden, or change up your landscaping, because Taurus is very, you know, it's an earth sign energy. Venus loves, you know, all things beautiful, especially nature. Being in Pisces, which is, you know, the last sign of the zodiac that prepares you for, you know, that rebirth season that comes along with Aries and the springtime. You know, it may play out financially as well, where you have a opportunity that brings potential benefits to your wallet, as well as connections that you may suddenly make that can bring a new friendship or even a potential dating partner into your orbit. Especially with eclipse season. Eclipses love to, you know, bring in new people or take out people that need to be taken out. You know, it really all depends on how this is impacting your chart and what's happening in your life. So this could be a very surprising day. It will play out for a few days. So, you know, if you don't see anything happening exactly on Wednesday, give it a couple of days. You may see this energy play out through the later end of the week. On Thursday, we're going to see the Scorpio moon opposing Jupiter in Taurus. And, you know, immediately when I see the moon oppose Jupiter, what comes to mind is, you know, a potential for overdoing things emotionally, a potential for a loss of faith or hope in something. And when we're talking about the Scorpio moon, the moon in Scorpio is not very favorable. The moon doesn't like being in Scorpio because it goes to the depths and the dark realms. And, you know, it can get a little too deep for its own good. And it could be very dark. However, Scorpio likes to cut through the nonsense. It doesn't like to sugarcoat anything. And so you may find yourself in a position where emotionally you need to cut through the fluff. And that could, you know, that could affect what you had hoped for, what you were trying to expand in your world. Or there could be a change in values when we're talking about Jupiter and Taurus, a change in values, maybe more so on the emotional level, that requires you to, just face those deep rooted emotions that you may have been brushing under the rug. And then we're also going to see the moon in Scorpio make a trine to Saturn in Pisces, as well as Venus in Pisces. And so in this possibly turbulent Scorpio moon, it's as if the moon is looking to Saturn for stability, and looking to Venus to find, something beautiful in even the darkest of, emotions, the darkest of days. It's like Venus and Saturn are the saving grace that kind of keeps the moon from going off the bandwagon. Because Venus is exalted in Pisces, and that's why I say that. Saturn is a very stable sign and wants us to do things that have longevity to them, right? And Saturn is the lord of karma and time. And so, with the moon making a trine to Saturn, I do see that Saturn is like the anchor to what could be very tumultuous emotionally. So try to keep yourself grounded during this time, because it could stir up a lot of emotions, and we're already in an emotional week because of the eclipse. Lunar eclipses tend to have that effect on people. I know I've already started to feel more emotional in the past couple of days as we're leading up to the eclipse. You probably are feeling the same thing too, and if not, be prepared, because you probably will. And then at the end of the week on Friday, we're going to see the Scorpio moon make an opposition to Uranus and Taurus. So again, another possibility for an emotional shakeup, to say the least. When we're talking about the unpredictable planet of Uranus making an opposition to the moon, there could be something that suddenly comes to realization, or is brought to your awareness, that brings you into a dark place, or vice versa. Maybe your emotions will suddenly oppose what it is that you're trying to change, or what values that you may have implemented in your life. They're going to be at odds with each other. So this could be, when we're talking about an opposition to Uranus, it very easily could turn into a tumultuous situation. So I would be mindful in your emotions during this time, and practice gratitude and patience. Because we can all be feeling this, and so if we're all in this boat together, we need to, give each other some grace. And then on Saturday, we're going to see Mars in Pisces make an opposition to Juno retrograde in Virgo. And I talked about Venus making an opposition to Juno retrograde in Virgo when I made my Venus in Pisces video, as well as, I'm pretty sure I mentioned it last week, because we're going to see a similar energy play out with Mars making the opposition now, except with Mars, it's not exalted in Pisces like Venus is, right? Mars is more slow moving, and at the same rate, a similar question is being asked of Mars. Is what you're being driven towards, what you're being passionate about, what you're trying to take action towards going to bring you reward? Is what you're committed to doing, or, you know, pushing towards, giving you the same energy back? You know, Juno retrograde in Virgo is making us take a look at our commitments wherever it is in our life. It's not just, you know, our commitments in love. It's everything that we're committed to, whether it's our daily routines, our work life, our home life, our friendships, our family life. You know, and look where Virgo is in your chart, and that'll give you an idea of what Juno retrograde in Virgo has been having you take a second look at. And so Mars making the opposition, you know, is going to be a test of, you know, essentially, am I doing the right thing? Am I committed to the right things? You know, am I being driven towards something that's going to bear fruit? And that's going to lead us into the Mercury retrograde that starts on April 1st when we come back next week. So I feel like there is a purpose to a lot of this heavier energy this week. Essentially, we're all being told to take a close look at what we're closing out, and why we have to close certain things out in our life, you know, with our relationships especially. What dynamics need to change and how we're going to implement those changes. And before we can start a new chapter in the Aries part of your chart, we're going to have to look at the details of how we're going about those changes, what exactly we're trying to change. Are those changes for the better? Are they in line with what we need to be doing? I feel there is a reason why we have Mercury retrograding beginning right before solar eclipse, and I will dive more into that in a separate video. I think I'm going to make a separate video on Mercury retrograde as well as the solar eclipse. So I hope this gives you some insight as to what kind of energy to expect for the week. And if you did find it helpful, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, comment, share your thoughts, share the video with others that would find it helpful, and stay tuned for more. Have a great week.